presentation on biofuel as a wicked problem, brought to you by the independent research group Buy Old Fuel. We have found ourselves staring down the barrel of an energy crisis. As industry and technology have grown and the stretching of human potential proceeds, our dependency upon large volumes of energy to sustain our economies grows.
One solution that's already begun implementation is biomass feedstock production. This creates biofuels. In the US, biofuels are mainly made with corn. These corns are broken down with yeast and fermented to create sugars and other combustible products that can be utilized in cars. This is considered renewable because we can produce these at a much higher rate than fossil fuels, and these can actually be produced as much as they're consumed.
So why are biofuels not produced at a rate that could be compared to that of gasoline and used on such a wide scale like gasoline? Primarily because of land use. To produce the biomass feedstocks that we would need to supply the United States with the amount of biofuels that would be needed to replace gasoline or to even compare with gasoline, we would have to look at some serious ways of producing that biomass, which means serious land. A lot of times this looks like either converting lands that are currently used for feedstock or deforestation. They're currently trying to investigate some microalgae type processes which can be grown on wastewater, which not only cleans the wastewater but then also is kind of a unique solution to the land use change, because you can do that in wastewater, you could do it in the ocean, you could do it in a couple of other places, but you're not having to take away from the finite resource of land that we currently have and contribute to soil degradation and all of that. It's just really controversial. It's one of those situations where it seems like no matter what you do, there's not really a perfect solution to it. Kind of like, the rest of the wicked problems. So because of the social and the environmental and economic problems related to land use change, there's been kind of a standstill on what we need to do. Another major concern involving biofuels and land usage is how we're going to grow those crops. People are really concerned about the amount of fertilizers and pesticides that might be required to produce that much biomass feedstocks. And unsustainable practices could render the entire renewable energy source unviable. The argument about biofuels really comes down to stakeholder beliefs and values about different things such as greenhouse gas emissions, comparing gasoline cars to the potential land use emissions that could come from deforestation and other types of things such as fertilizers to produce the biomass feedstocks. Soil degradation, deforestation, biodiversity loss, water usage, transportation of these fuels, because there's not a readily available infrastructure in place like there is currently for gasoline, and genetically modified organisms even, to try and reduce the amount of fertilizers and pesticides used. A lot of people are interested in that, and so depending on who you are and what your belief system is, biofuels might seem like a really scary thing and might just be easier to stick with the gasoline. Or at least that's how it seems. Can biofuels become a more sustainable solution to our energy needs, and if so, how can we make it work? Well, we're here to tell you about that.
How is it that 90% of the cars produced after 2018 are flex fuel vehicles, yet majority of our use is unleaded gas?
There are 3 term targets we need to achieve in order for the switch to clean renewable energy through biofuel to be successful. Our pre-development target is to reach an average biodiesel and ethanol production of 2 billion gallons per month, or 24 billion gallons of biomass energy consumption a year by the year 2025. Lastly, our stabilization target, or the long term, is to reach an average of 8 billion gallons per month, or 96 billion gallons of biomass energy consumption a year by the year 2035.
We believe that the most influential factor of our transition is social change. We believe that leadership is imperative, and that begins with our higher education systems.
We think that sustainability should be taught in every class as a general education requirement, and eventually we hope it gets all the way down to our elementary level to change the way our society views their consumption.
Society can't do this alone. Societal pressure will force the government to provide subsidies. Subsidies need to go to farmers so that they utilize farming practices in a sustainable manner to avoid land usage change and increased greenhouse gas emissions as a result of such. Subsidies will also need to go to larger corporations. They'll need to increase their investment in technologies to increase efficiency and minimize prices and maximize production. Subsidies will also need to go to gas stations and infrastructure that increases rail transport for biofuels, because biofuels cannot go along existing pipelines that are used for oil and gas.